Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Parkitect after feels like what is an age since episode 1 of this series. First of all, if you enjoy this video, please let me know by clicking on the like button. And if you're new here and you'd like to see, I've paused on my video, there we go. If you'd like to see lots more creative gaming every single day, all you have to do is click subscribe. So, part 1 came out a few weeks ago, and it's literally taken me that long to really get back here again. Not for want of trying, to be honest. I've turned Parkitect on about 5 or 6 different times and tried my hardest to build this next bit and just really struggled with it. And I don't know what it was specifically, but I would find myself staring at the screen, and I don't know what it is about the build or the game or what, but I really struggled. Eventually, over the space of about a week and a half, I got most of this first bit that you're seeing now, which is the left-hand side, as you're looking at it, of Towers Street, which is Alton Towers' version of a main street, I guess. And then eventually I went to start the other side, and I couldn't bring myself to do it, so instead we change up and we go ahead and build a first pass, at least, of Spinball Whizzer, which is the first sort of major coaster that you get to as you walk through the park. So that's what we're doing today. So a bit of Tower Street and a bit of Spinball Whizzer. Starting off with, these are really useful, these path coverings. So the game obviously just allows for square pathing, like so, but what you can use is these, basically they're decals, these pieces that can go over to kind of fill in areas of concrete, and they look really good. So again, using a lot of reference images, using a lot of Google Maps is my friend here when it comes to this build. It's actually a pretty good Google Street View of the whole park, and also Google Maps is pretty good. It doesn't have a full 3D modelling or anything, but still for overhead shots and kind of figuring out layouts and stuff, it's really useful. Occasionally you'll see the camera just sort of fly off to the other side of the park and come back again. That's when I tab out to go and look at something. The camera follows the mouse, so when the mouse is across on the other screen, the camera of the game just sort of wanders off. So that's, whenever you see that happen, that's what I'm looking at. So here we go, then, starting work on Tower Street, and the buildings are all pretty simple here. They're very lightly themed, and actually they're mostly, they were mostly this sort of cream colour, this sort of standard colour that you get for wall pieces in the game. The whole of Tower Street has now been repainted, quite nicely as well, very bright colours, which is part of their Towers Loving Care. Which is their sort of clean-up operation through the winter, through the off-season. They come in and they tidy areas up and rebuild things and stuff. And one of the things they've done over the last couple of years, I think it's actually taken, is they've completely repainted the street, Tower Street. Unfortunately, Google Maps, Google Images is out of date, so the pictures I'm looking at look, from what I can tell, a few years old. The overhead view of Google Maps actually shows Wicker Man being built, so it's probably about 2 years old since those have been updated. The actual floor plan ones, I'm not too sure. I need to have a look around and figure it out actually whether Wicker Man's there or whether it's still showing a log flume even, or just showing a building site. That's going to be interesting to find out. But yeah, they have the older colours here, so. One thing I'm going to have to do at some point is, I have taken some photos from last time I was there, knowing that this was going to be an issue. But if anyone's got any tips on the colours of the buildings as well, as you probably know, if you're a fan of the channel, I do struggle with colours. I'm very colourblind. So nice, simple. That building there is blue, and light blue. I can do about light blue and dark blue, that's about it. But if you start coming at me with things like mauve and cerise and things like that, you've got no chance. Don't do any of those sort of colours. I can just about do primary colours. So there is a drop down here. One thing I didn't realise is actually the entrance is kind of raised up a little compared to a lot of the rest of the park. This whole Tower Street is actually on a bit of a slope, obviously not something you're able to do in this game, so we're keeping it flat. And again, I said this in episode 1, we are going to have to take a couple of liberties occasionally with how this park is laid out, purely because of the isometric build system, and like I say, things like that, not being able to do slow curves and stuff. One thing I will say about Alton Towers, it's very hilly, really. Especially the gardens in the middle are very, very hilly. They go really deep down. I'm not too sure whether we're going to be able to accomplish that perfectly here. We're going to try our best. But yeah, we definitely are going to have to take a few liberties, a few sort of artistic tendencies towards how we get away with stuff. But overall, I think it actually starts to turn out pretty well. I'm still very much learning the Parkitect build system, figuring out what pieces do, what you can do with them. I'm watching a lot of Parkitect content on YouTube as well. A big shout out to Coaster B. Coaster is in roller coaster and the letter B. I'll put a link in the channel if I remember, link in the description if I remember, to his channel. Does some really amazing stuff in the game. It has a great sense of how the pieces work and how they go together, and does some really, really nice builds. He's currently doing a really cool Pleasure Beach style one, which is another UK park. It's not a remake of Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It's kind of the style of those kind of holiday resorts, those seaside resorts like Blackpool Pleasure Beach or Southport Pleasure Beach, or I think there's another one further down south. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, that sort of traditional sort of pier side park. It's looking really, really good. Anyway, next up is the middle of this street. It's actually quite a wide street, and the middle of it, they have these grass verges, really, grass burns, I guess you would call them. And these are used, from what I can tell, they're only really used for theming at times of the year. So this is they'll place pumpkins and straw bales and stuff for Halloween. I don't really know. They do a Christmas thing. The park's not open at Christmas, but they do like an opening Santa, come and visit Santa type thing, where they open up a little bit of it, and then maybe a grotto and a couple of the kiddie rides, I suppose. But that's what they use the areas there. They got like a big Scarefest sign when it's Scarefest. Next up, we have this bit. They're actually frogs. They have these frogs on lily pads that squirt out water. Obviously, that isn't something we have in the game, so here we kind of replicate it using those jumping fountains. Tree placement, though, I'm trying to get as close as I can. There are a couple of trees on that bit of grass, so there we go. We've got a couple of trees on that bit of grass, and they are covered with a very makeshift rock wall. It's not quite as natural as these rocks that I'm putting down, but it's more natural than an actual sort of wall piece. So this is kind of the best of the options, I felt, really. And like I said, they also have a very slight burn, but I did try doing that off camera, but it was really tricky to get that looking right. The problem is with the height variation on the terrain, it instantly looks a bit too high. It looks like lots of hills. Oh, sorry for knocking the microphone there. A couple more buildings then. Like I say, most of these first ones are all this plain cream colour. They're not now. I know they're painted. I can go back and quite easily paint them. This next building, which I believe is a sweet shop. Well, actually, these all lead into one. Behind it, these are all facades for one huge souvenir store on this side of the street. But all the exits and entrances are separate, and this one is a sweet store. So I think actually the sweets are in this area of the shop, but then as you work up towards the exit there, you go through like mugs, t-shirts and all that sort of stuff up to the tills, the checkouts at the top there. So but from the outside, this is a wooden build, so we're getting that in pretty simply there, and this is probably the only one that's looks still like what it looks like now. Like I say, again, I'm using older reference pictures, so I did need to go back at some point and have a bit of a go with the colour. Again, this is probably the most detailed building I've done so far on the main street, mostly because I thought, I'm going to take the time and try and add a bit of detail and see really how much it helps and see if it makes much of a difference. They have these weird door and window on the top that I just kind of struggled a little bit to get. I placed a door there, but I'm not really 100% sure whether it looks any good or not, so may end up having to go back and changing that. Again, it's a case of, unlike Planet Coaster that doesn't really use mods yet, this game is modded. A lot of these pieces are mods. The windows that you can see there are mods. The windows that come with the game are basically walls with holes in, a bit more traditional RollerCoaster Tycoon 2 style. But obviously these ones that just sort of stick to the walls give you a lot more room to play with. This last building, I believe, is a pub or something. No, it's not, is it? You can't go inside this one, but it has like stalls at the front where they sell hot dogs, donuts, that kind of stuff. We actually place a real life stall in, as in a game stall, so that guests can use at least some of this main street. We actually go and place a stall in roughly where it is on the actual one as well. So that's kind of what we do here. And this one, at least on the reference images, has like a light blue detailing colour scheme, so that's what we kind of go for there. And then we had a bit of an awning there, again using the PCs to try and do like an approximation of the real life. That's kind of what we're going for there. At that point I got a bit fed up of the high street, so I'm going to throw that in there, although I don't really think staff do much because I'm in scenario editor as opposed to just playing the game, just because it gives you a little bit more leeway in how it's in what you can do. Right, next up then we get started on Spinball Whizzer. This was a huge task for me. The only thing I've ever built coaster-wise in this game before is a simple there and back Woody, and instead, rather than sort of building up to something more complicated, I'm going straight in there with a recreation of a spinning coaster. So Spinball Whizzer has been in the park for quite a while now. I want to say it got there early 2000s. Again, there's me, sorry, looking at reference images. It happens a lot in this, by the way. I want to say it got there early 2000s, although it might have been even a bit earlier than that, and it's known as Spinball Whizzer. Oh, these clips are really annoying, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try and trim these out. It's known as Spinball Whizzer, and it was for a while, it had an IP theming of Sonic the Hedgehog. It was called Sonic Spinball. That's now gone. That was there for about 5 or 6 years. It's now gone back to being just Spinball Whizzer, and it's a spinning coaster, really great coaster, to be honest with you. Really quite intense motion and speed on it. It's considered a bit of a kiddie coaster, probably because it's relatively low to the ground, doesn't have much height in it, and also it's very near the kids area of CBeebies Land as well. I've placed it roughly where it needs to be, but obviously we can move it around as a blueprint as we actually get to build over in this area. But yeah, it's considered a bit of a kiddie coaster, but it's actually pretty intense. It throws you around quite a bit, and there's some real good G-forces on it. The main things about this one is that the path runs underneath a big part of it. It keeps coming back to this piece sort of at the front of the camera here on the right, where it sort of almost does these overbank turns. They're on a separate piece of grass, and the rest of the ride sits on another piece, and then the queue runs underneath. The exit queue running under the lift hill there, and the entrance queue sort of running around the back of the coaster as you look at it from this point. So again, I haven't placed the queues in yet. We'll do that once it actually goes into place roughly where it needs to be. My biggest challenge here was, again, working with this sort of isometric grid, working with this square grid, especially with this piece here. You see me go back and forth. This actually goes at a bit of an angle so that it rides underneath this first hill there we've got, and that was really quite tricky to get it right. Now, I believe there is a mod that you can get that gives you much freer coaster placement, so maybe that's something I can look into, although there is something quite fun, I think, about trying to replicate real-life coasters using this sort of isometric in-game system, and, you know, it's tricky, but you get something that looks a bit like, a decent approximation of the ride, and I actually think this turned out pretty well. Then all we have to do is change the colour. The colour scheme is blue and red, so it's really nice and vibrant and very easy for me to replicate. And then the last thing I need to do is change it so that they're facing outwards. They've got inward facing and outward facing cars, and the actual one, they face outwards with like a little handle in front of you to hold on to, and then dropping the trains down so that it constantly runs. A lot of block breaks there, one of the main ways that the ride runs well, with a pretty decent throughput. Right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, you can give us a like. It really does help out the channel. And if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. Any thoughts, queries, or suggestions, you can pop them down in the comments. And if you fancy a chat, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at John T. Sparrow. If you'd like to join in with the Geekism community, you can do so over on our Geekism Discord server. You'll find the link for that in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.